Marriage was regarded as the cornerstone of a good Christian sex life during the Middle Ages. Any sexual activity outside of marriage, whether adultery or premarital relations, was classified as fornication. Thus, marriage served as the normalizing framework for sexual behavior, overshadowing the concept of heterosexuality itself. This idea was solidified in 1215 at the Fourth Lateran Council, which declared marriage a sacrament of the Church. While the Church warned against the perils of premarital sex, Romantic poets celebrated love's virtues. Romance literature became a reflection of societal ideals, illustrating proper masculine and feminine roles. These narratives often depicted men as dominant figures, pursuing women who resisted their advances, only to succumb to their desires. This portrayal of insatiability suggested that women, despite their initial reluctance, were ultimately unable to resist male affection. A poignant example of this dynamic is the tragic love story of Héloïse d'Argenteuil and Pierre Abélard. Abélard, a French philosopher, became Héloïse's teacher, and their unchaperoned time together led to a passionate affair. Abélard expressed his love in heartfelt letters, but their romance took a dark turn when Héloïse became pregnant. To protect her honor and that of her uncle, they married in secret, but Abélard's reputation was at stake. When Héloïse's uncle discovered their relationship, he sought revenge, hiring thugs who brutally castrated Abélard. This act not only stripped Abélard of his manhood, also robbed Héloïse of her happiness. In her letters, Héloïse lamented the loss of her beloved, illustrating the deep emotional scars left by their tragic fate. Ultimately, both were forced into separate religious lives, with Héloïse becoming an abbess, her success stemming from her intellect rather than true devotion. For medieval readers, Abélard's castration symbolized the destruction of not just his ability to father children, but also his identity as a man. By emasculating him, Fulbert condemned Abélard to a life outside the norms of masculinity. This story, often romanticized, reveals a darker reality of exploitation and betrayal. Abélard took advantage of his position over his student and later abandoned her to face the consequences alone. Literature from this period provides further insight into the complexities of love, fornication, and marriage. Giovanni Boccaccio's Decameron is filled with tales of cuckolded husbands and cunning women. One story depicts a gullible husband allowing a priest to seduce his wife, while another follows a monk whose resolve crumbles in the presence of a beautiful maiden. Boccaccio's satire of the church and its clergy underscores a growing contempt for religious hypocrisy. Similarly, Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales features the lusty wife of Bath, who boasts of her 5 husbands, juxtaposed with the avarice of the church depicted in the monk. These works suggest that not everyone adhered to the church's strict sexual morality, reflecting a public that often identified more with the author's critiques than with the church's teachings. Among the laboring poor, premarital sex was often accepted despite the church's condemnation. For many, a promise of marriage was sufficient for a woman to relinquish her virginity. Historical records, like that of Matilda Catt from Lincolnshire, reveal that even after a wedding, women could be penalized for premarital relations through fines known as layer white. These fines were typically imposed on women and reflected a double standard in the enforcement of sexual morality. Church leaders in the 1540s lamented that many view premarital sex as a mere pastime, highlighting the disconnect between ecclesiastical ideals and the realities of daily life. This suggests a significant gap between the church's teachings and the lived experiences of the populace. As the Reformation unfolded, attitudes toward marriage began to shift dramatically. Martin Luther, a leading figure in the movement, challenged the church's emphasis on celibacy advocating instead for marriage as the ideal Christian state. Having struggled with the temptations of monastic life, Luther recognized the need for a new approach. He declared that chastity was not essential and promoted the virtues of marriage, fundamentally altering the landscape of Christian sexual ethics. Luther's own life exemplified this shift. He married Catherine von Bora, a former nun, embodying his belief that a godly life could be lived within the bounds of marriage. His teachings encourage a reevaluation of sexual morality, ultimately leading to a more nuanced understanding of love, sex, and the institution of marriage. The complexities of love and sexual morality in the Middle Ages reveal a fascinating interplay between societal norms,
literary expressions, and the evolving doctrines of the Church.
While marriage was upheld as the ideal, the realities of human desire and the critique of religious hypocrisy painted a more complicated picture of sexuality during this transformative period.